He's...
Well, we taped him, General.
How?
He's part of this special.
Yeah.
We did tape him.
Harvey, could you move your chair up just another 6 or 8 inches there?
How do you want to do this, Harvey?
I can go 1 and 1.
Huh?
Go 1 and 1. We also...
So Harvey go first, and then you'll be second.
I guess that's what... How do you want to do this? You want to ask him some questions and then me ask him a few, or you want me to come over there with you after a while, or
Well,
how do you want to do it?
Whatever the General would like.
Doesn't make a speck of difference. I'm at your service.
All right.
Camera-wise, it'd be easier if one if you did it.
All right, let's do 1 and then 1. What we really wanted to do here is the Confederate Air Force, as you know, is an organization which is dedicated to perpetuating in flying condition the aircraft of World War II.
Still rolling.
And you ready?
Mm-hmm. Are you ready, Rick? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
General, I'd like to just go back for a moment and ask you about when you commanded the 8th Air Force. And of course, Colonel Beckham was at that time the leading 8th before he got shot down. And my people in the Thunderbolt Pilots Association will never forgive me if I don't ask you what you thought of the Thunderbolt. We know you flew it.
It was an excellent airplane.
General Kepner said it was the airplane that broke the back of the Luftwaffe. Was General Kepner correct on that?
That was correct. The P-51 had a hand in that also, of course.
Yes, yes. Not many people are aware of the fact that you were a scientist as well as the world's outstanding flyer. For example, that you have a master's and a doctorate from Massachusetts Institute of Technology in aeronautical engineering, and at that time, that was one of the few institutions in the world that awarded such a. And people, if they don't know any better, might have thought of you as a daredevil and so on. Klein said that you were a man who took calculated risks. In other words, this was the modern test pilot engineering approach rather than kick the tires and light the fires. In other words, there was nothing really that you hadn't figured out that you were going to be able to do it. Is that correct?
I tried to analyze every risk and minimize the risk through analysis.
I read also that you regretted, your one regret was that you didn't get to fly combat in World War I. Would you comment on that, sir?
Well, I was a fighter pilot and a fighter pilot instructor in World War I. I was ordered overseas on 3 different occasions. The first 2 occasions, something came up to intervene. At that time, I was a fighter pilot instructor. I was still a fighter pilot instructor when I was ordered the 3rd time. And that time, the war ended, so I did not get overseas. And it was a little distressing to have your students go over and be heroes while you were back there making more heroes.
Who were some of those students, General?
I don't remember offhand, but they were just a group of them, one after another.
Okay. Well,
my memory at 87, coming up 88, has gotten very flabby.
I'm not going to ask you what your sign is, General. I want to say that for those of us in these gray suits that are in the Confederate Air Force, that we try to live up to the standards of the maintenance, restoration, and flying of the great aircraft from World War II. And in a sense, the educational process that this gives to the younger generation, and so that we'll never be in a situation again like we were when we were caught at Pearl Harbor. And I think you mentioned that you had been a member of the CAF.
They very kindly elected me to membership, and I found it so difficult to make meetings and really be a useful member that my conscience caused me to demit. And now I think I am an honorary member. I'm not quite sure.
Well, then you don't have to pay bills.
I am solidly behind the Confederate Air Force. I think they have done and are doing a superb job.
Well, thank you, sir. On behalf of all the people in the Confederate Air Force, coming from you, that's high praise indeed. I wonder if we could just cut now and
Okay, and again.
General, we're certainly glad to be here with you today. It's a real pleasure for us in the Confederate Air Force to get a chance to meet with you and talk with you.
Delight to be aboard.
Thank you, sir. And I don't know of an honorary member we have that we'd prefer to have any more than you. We hate to demote you from general to colonel, but that's the best we can do. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, in one of the air magazines this month, I think it was Air Classics, had an article about that Pantelleria raid, and I think you were in charge of that particular portion
I was
of
in command of the 8th Air Force, of the 12th Air Force at that time.
Yes, sir. Could you sort of describe, you had 500 or 600 B-17s, I understand, there.
Yes.
Could you sort of describe how that raid was carried, those saturation bombing raids were carried out?
Just a saturation raid was carried out, and Pantelleria at that time had cave hangars where many of their aircraft were underground, but we were able to completely saturate the situation, and they came out with a white flag.
That's what I understood, that you finally saw some white flags, yes. And then that called for the cessation of bombing and invasion. That was an interesting concept, wasn't it?
Yes.
Had we done anything like that before?
I had flown quite a few missions, but not anything exactly like that. Certainly nothing where they waved the white flag at the end of the mission.
Well, we should have seen a little more of that sooner.
I took part in quite a few of the missions against Pantelleria.
You did that personally? Yeah. That's interesting. I just wanted to, I don't want to drag this out for you, and as you said, we probably should get out of the sun and have some liquid refreshment before sunstroke, but I would like to invite you to attend any meeting that you would so desire at any time, or any of them that we have with our Southern California wing of the Confederate Air Force. We meet the last Thursday of every month there at Van Nuys Airport, and if sometime you're going to be in the area, if you would give us a call, we would be delighted to have you as our guest.
If I'm in the area with time available, I'd certainly like a visit with you.
Thank you, sir.
Best to you.
Whoop.
That's right.